Well, violence that raged in Kansas over this slavery issue became known as Bleeding Kansas. What happened is Northerners and Southerners both rushed into the territory and violence erupted. And the fighting over slavery and disputed land claims in Kansas took the lives of more than 200 men and women. They basically had somewhat of a civil war right inside the territory of Kansas, the issue being what? Slavery. And it got so bad that the federal government had to do what? Bring in military troops to restore order. It got crazy. They were just right. It was like, I don't know how you, I guess it's like Black Friday when there's, 6 big screen TVs for $100 and people have sat there all night waiting to get in, and as soon as the store opens, everybody rushes in there, elbowing. You ever hear about fights at Walmart over this? No, seriously, have you heard about that? Yeah, that's the same thing these guys were doing, but much more violent. And what were they fighting over? Lands and slavery. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, crazy violence, right? So it gets so bad after 200 lives that are lost that they have to bring in federal troops to restore order. Now I'm going to give you 2 specific examples of the violence that occurred in the Kansas territory. 2 specific examples. And they tie in with each other. What happened is a bunch of armed abolitionists, armed pro-slavery men, which means what? They're for slavery. They burned part of a town in Kansas called Lawrence. Why would they burn it? Because it was populated with abolitionists, people that were against slavery. So picture this in your mind. A group of men who were for slavery armed themselves, and they burned part of the town of Lawrence, Kansas, which was populated with which type of settlers? Abolitionists, people that did not want slavery. Well, what happened, do you think? Right, in revenge, a fanatical white abolitionist by the name of John Brown gathered an armed group, including his own sons, and murdered 5 of those men that helped burn the town of Lawrence. Okay, I'll go through it again. So here is a big example of Bleeding Kansas. A group of men armed themselves who were for slavery. They went into the town of Lawrence, Kansas and burned the town up because it was populated with people that were against slavery. In revenge, a fanatical white abolitionist by the name of John Brown also gathered up an armed group, including his sons, and they killed 5 of those men that went in there and burned Lawrence. Okay, you guys are too young, but maybe your parents. You ever heard the rock group Kansas? Have you? Well, just a second then. Anybody? Nobody's heard the rock? Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when we are done. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, well that was done by a rock group called Kansas. Well, here is their first album. This is their first album. They're kind of long-haired dudes, aren't they? It's like in my day, 1979, man. Woo, yeah. Okay. This is the rock group Kansas. This is the cover of their first ever album. Why would I even bring this up? Guess who's on the cover of their first album? John Brown.
Oh, are you kidding?
Nope. John Brown is on the cover of the first Kansas album. Kansas. Who better to get people's attention? Bleeding Kansas, the white abolitionist who went in there and committed murder because he was against slavery. John Brown is on the cover. By the way, kiddos, This is what you call an album or LP.
That sounds really.
Probably never seen one before. Pop one out for you. You have some of these? Yeah. Well, you might get online, Ollie, and find out if you can buy one of the first albums by Kansas. What's on this album? I don't know. Can I tell you? Bring It Back, Lonely Wind, Journey From. There is no big hits that you've heard of on this one because it was their first one. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to put our notes away and we're going to pay attention here because I'm going to show you a video on slavery from when we talk until John Brown. Yep. For who? Abolitionist. A-B-O-L. I get it. All right, we'll show you a little video on slavery here. See what you think about this. It's pretty darn amazing how these people were treated. This white, I will let you go crazy.